Welcome to another episode of Behind the Pixel. I'm your host, Joe. This next episode is extremely personal to me. Not because any of the content is that personal. It's not because my guest is the most talented artist I've spoken to, though he is gifted. It's not because I think he's going to be the most famous artist I speak to, although I hope he is. It's because of the similar life experiences we've had. Bulging Idiot and I have become close over the past few months, although I don't know his real name. I don't even know what he looks like, because he wore a mask during the entire interview. I was even skeptical that this was his real voice because of the immense secrecy. But that hasn't stopped us from becoming friends. It hasn't stopped him from telling me stories about his life, and me sharing experiences with him that mirror his own. He thinks he sees some of me in him, and that I probably see some of myself in him. But I don't see much of myself in him. I do see my brother, though. My brother is one of those people that is tortured by everyday life. Frustrated by the mundane nature. Anguished over the amount of hate that people spew at each other. Constantly trying to escape it. Weary after numerous instances of bad luck, self-inflicted issues, and just being a human embodiment of Murphy's Law. All of the same things can be said about Bulging Idiot. Maybe that's why I care about him so much. Bulging Idiot constantly jokes about being insane. But if he is insane, then I must not be far off because I understand him so well. We seem to be speaking the same language, just in different mediums. I've compared his work to one of my favorite artists, Ralph Steadman, who does the peculiar, creepy, and unsettling artwork in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, written by Hunter S. Thompson. Hunter often wrote about fearing he was going insane due to a drug-induced paranoia. He wrote about the depravity and disgusting nature of human beings, while Steadman brought those nightmarish hallucinations to life. So maybe I see some of my rambling, chaotic writing in his aggressively, purposefully blunt art. Maybe I am the Thompson to his Steadman. Or maybe we're just two idiots, humble enough to tell everyone we know we're full of shit. Are you putting your voice through a digitizer?
No, not at all. No, I just sound this good naturally.
It's the smoking.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. No, I smoked like a whole pack yesterday. I don't know how the fuck I managed to do that, man. It's stress. It's
Oh
stress.
yeah. What are you stressed about?
It's life in general, I guess. I don't know. Nothing that you can control, right? That's why stress is stuff that's out of your own control, right? But like I said, everyone's like a dewdrop, and basically the reflection of said dewdrop is different for everyone, right? Like if you're a dewdrop, your reflection on the world is different than mine, dependent on where your dewdrop is placed on this spider web, let's per se, right? So everyone's reflection is slightly different, but it's still the same world, right? It's still the same universe. It's still the same spider web that you're looking at. It's just a different reflection from said dewdrop's point of view, right? So whenever I put that into perspective, it gives me a broader perspective of everything, and it kind of makes me think, okay, if I'm just one small dewdrop, there's billions among me, right, on this spider web.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So
Yeah, I
to,
don't know
to
if
think of it that way, it's like a grounding sensation for me, if anything, I guess.
yeah, that stuff never makes me feel different. If anything, that just makes me more depressed when I think of things like that. Um, it's the also Fight Club analogy. We're not all unique, special little snowflakes in this thing. We're closer to cows in a meat packing plant, more so,
Yep.
which is tough because we talked about it before, like trying to outlast our own mortality by creating these things.
Exactly.
And I think there's a scene in House of Cards that kind of put it into perspective for me, where I don't know where this information came from, but I'm sure there is a study somewhere out there about it. How after someone dies, the memory or the idea of that person, their extended life lasts approximately 2 generations, three at most, because
Okay.
everyone who knew that person dies off, and unless you
Ceases to
have
exist. Yeah.
ceases to exist, and if there's nobody continuing that memory, if there's no reason to preserve it, then they fade into anonymity.
So check this out. Like the Navajo, for instance, they don't record their history. So everything is passed down through word of mouth from generation to generation. And this happens with a lot of tribes members. And my cousins being native, um, I've learned a lot about this. And essentially, they don't have a recorded history, right? So everything, it could date back to before Christ. And it's essentially they just keep on rewording themselves. So um, if you were to relate yourself to telling a story of a king, perhaps they'll just go and relate that story to the newest king, right? And that would be for African culture, perhaps. Maybe Papua New Guinea. I can't remember exactly where that is, but it's passed down through word of mouth. So there's no recorded history. So they apply whatever was taught to them to their generation, right? So, like you said, you could only maybe live 2, 3 generations through word of mouth, and then they're going to start applying what they've learned to their generation. So, King X could become King Y, King Z, and they're still going to implement the same history. However, the name changes. It's still the king. It's still their forefather, whatever it may be, their god. Um, but it's basically you're replaced throughout time, however many generations down the road. Just to I guess elaborate on the fact that you had stated that.
You seem to know a lot more about other cultures and race than um, most people, which is one of the things that you and I have, talked about before. But I mean, you just said you have cousins that are.
Yes, yes, Jewish and native, extremely rare. I'm not going to go into what tribe they're from, but that would give a little bit too much detail uh, as to where my location is. Um, but I'm sure that you've heard the story. There's the astronaut who travels to space, and when he returns to Earth, he's asked, "Did you see God?" And he responds, "Yes." And they said, "So what of God?" And he said, "She is black." Now that resonates with me very heavily, and I'm sure it does with a lot of other people. That what you see isn't what you should necessarily believe, right? Not everyone should believe in this fallacy of an old white bearded man up in the clouds, right?
Hmm.
So I think that in relation to that, uh, that God is perhaps a black woman really brings light. It sheds light and perhaps darkness to people as well. But I find that we're all the same, right? And as far as you can go and say that one person is different from another person, like I said, a person is a persona, which is derivative from 20th century Latin, which essentially just means a mask. Right? So we're all the same. We just wear a mask as to how we want to portray ourselves to the public, essentially.
Why do you choose to wear a mask? And because we've gotten to know each other over the past 4 months, and I just found out your real name maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And, we've gotten close, but you're still very secretive about everything and private, which I've tried to respect in some regards. But in other aspects, we do share a lot of our lives with each other. Why did you decide to, one, be so closed off, but then two, decide to start sharing some of that stuff with me?
All right. Well, for one, I like to say that my art speaks for itself, and that the mask that I have put on, that I portray to the public, is nothing more than my art itself. You shouldn't take me for a face, okay? And that's the way that I look at it, is that my art speaks for itself, and that there shouldn't be a celebrity, there shouldn't be a face behind it. It's almost like Daft Punk, MF Doom, any of those guys that you see. They're able to live their normal lives. They can go sit down in a bar, they can enjoy themselves, they can have a family life, and then they can go and do their work separately, and they like to keep their work and their personal life separate. And maybe it's the allure of that. Maybe it's the allure of something like a Banksy, essentially, where you're so well renowned, but it's not for who you are, it's for what you speak of, right? And maybe it's just something of the allure. Maybe it's just something that I feel that I'm a little bit too anxious. I'm paranoid. It's a bit of a stressor on myself. I'd prefer to keep my anonymous factor, because it does add the allure. It adds a little bit of suspicion as to who is this man, who is this person, who is the persona, who is the mask, right? And like I said, I think just yesterday, don't we all wear a mask? Not just due to the pandemic, but I mean, if persona literally translates to mask and person is a derivative from then, and it's translated to the exact same, we're all a mask. So why not wear one 24/7, right?
So why then give me any like personal details? Like
Maybe I didn't.
you obviously maybe you didn't.
Maybe it all could be
Maybe
a little bit of a cat and mouse game,
yeah.
right? But
If so, it's I don't know how well it's working.
hey, like
I don't I don't usually chase things that much.
exactly, and that's the whole point, is
So
that most people don't. And so, how much interest do you really have in me to go and try and trace me down? Right? And that's maybe the other thing of the blockchain, is that everyone is anonymous, right? Although it is publicly recorded for everyone to see. Okay, so if you want to see anything, it's there for you, right? You don't need to see the man behind the mask. You don't need to see the man behind the art. All you have to do is appreciate the art for what it is, right? And I find that's relative to any business. Actually, you don't need to see a face. You can technically teach someone something without having to see them. It could be through a podcast you're listening right now, right? You don't need to see me. All you have to do is hear me through and relate. And as long as I can have some bit of relativity to the person who's looking at my stuff, then I feel like I've made a relationship with them already. So with you, the reason why I do trust you, Joe, maybe it's a bit of, I see a bit of myself in you, and maybe a bit of you in me. And there's relativity, like I said. Um, and the relativity is what gives me a sense of being and a sense of happiness. And perhaps that's why I chose to share with you among many others, including my personal peers. They don't know what I'm doing, right?
all right. Um, you do bizarre drawings of faces too, um, which when I first started in this space, you were one of the first artists that I found,
Well,
and
congratulations.
right. um, and I saw those cartoony faces that we've talked
Hmm.
about, and I was like, "Is this good? What I don't know what is happening here. How does there's obviously a connection between your idea of masks and personas with your
The way I convey my art, yeah. So basically, to elaborate on that, I started off doing graffiti a long time ago, over a decade ago, where everything is clean line structure. Everything has to be perfect. The better you are, is the more clean your line work is. Is to convey your letter structure so that basically you can either keep it secretive, so that it's so complex that only another graffiti writer could distinguish your letters, or you can make it so clean and fluent so that anybody that is a passerby is able to go and appreciate your art as well. So there's two different aspects to graffiti, I think, is one that's a secret message for other graffiti writers and one for the general public. Now, I got a little bit too bored with it. Clean line structure, painting flat colors, making things look too correct, aesthetically correct to what the rules were essentially. Now, to elaborate on that, I believe that art is a freedom of expression. You can't be taught it. So where are the rules in that? There are no rules. There are no boundaries. So for me, I kind of gave up the aspect of clean line structure and articulated, mathematically correct line work, and I abandoned that. And maybe that's why your mind thought, is this good or is it bad? Is it, a freedom of expression, or is this guy just completely mad and insane? Right, and it kinda gives you that, fine line in between, that what is art? Art is a freedom of expression. I don't have to have clean line work for me to convey my message to you. I don't need to have, a a picture perfect, uh, you know, portrait of somebody in order to convey what they look like. It's in the artist's eye. If you look at some of the cubism that's done by Picasso, none of that is, his by far best work if you were to go and talk about clean line structure and what looks realistic. It's him breaking the law of realism is what made him an artist. So that's where I kind of just realized, hey, I'm fucking sick and tired of this. I don't want to do clean line work anymore. I'm sick and tired of painting flat colors on an aircraft flight simulator. I don't want to paint white walls anymore in a house, right? It's just it was too boring for me, and the structure was too linear. I had to go and break that structure in order to come up with this new style that I guess you discovered just a few months ago. That this is literally a breakthrough for me. I've never done something
Mm-hmm.
like this before, to be honest with you, Joe.
Yeah. It's crazy. And, when you first see it, it's just chaos and all these things overlapping. And when I first saw it, I was like, okay, I can't tell if this is someone just, you know, throwing something out there and hoping it sells or hoping someone appreciates it and looks at it and is like, oh, it's abstract, it's different. That's cool. Because, some people try to be deep and try to actually, um, or think they can do something like that and be seen as technically a good artist.
I consider myself an eccentric freak, if anything, before an artist. Um, art is secondary. It's the creation, right? That's what really matters. And to go along with your line of longevity and how people are amused by the fact that they want to live forever, and whether that be mortally or figuratively speaking. um, I create just to create, to be there, to be relevant, to be a part of the community. And I don't know, I just find that it's more for me than anyone else. If you enjoy it too, that's great, and I'd love to have some, people that can relate to the sense of psychedelic insanity that I am going through, along with the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD, whatever it may come with. We're all struggling through mental depression one way or another. And maybe it's just that thought that I
I think
wanted
it
to
comes
convey.
out, and I've said this to you, that there is that breaking point and almost like breakthrough for the viewer of your art that when you post a video of how you create it, it completely changes the perception of your art, that there is chaos, or that it is just, some teenage kid in his room drawing on a, $1,200 iPad, just thinking, oh, I'm going to be an artist someday too. It's when you show that video, every thought, every mistake, every stroke is in there. And I can see how your brain is working. I can see, whatever anger you're feeling, or just tension, like you said, um, in everything that you're making. And I get it now.
No, and I appreciate that. That's actually one of the kindest things I've heard as of recent, Joe. I thank you for that. Um, I'm awe-stricken that you had said that. I'm just very glad that someone else is able to convey my thoughts and take them for themselves and not take it for granted that I'm just some, you know, explosive, throw this on that, and here you go, buy it. No, I couldn't care less if you buy it. If you buy it, then you're supporting me, and that goes and puts food on my table. Yes, I understand that. And like I said, money is relative. We only need money because we say we need money, right? If we had a barter system still in place, and I'm sure I'd be able to make a trade for you so that way we could both eat, right? But since we're based off of this sense of economy where we need to make money to make money to make money to live to make money, it's yeah, I'm just glad that I'm able to speak to people, that my art is able to be out there. I've posted much more than I've sold. My only sale is point 0.4 Ethereum. Right. But I think I told you that I held on to it and it's dropped. The marketplace has dropped it quite a bit. I probably lost about half of what I thought I was going to earn. But it's all fun and games for me, man. Like I said, wealth is of the heart and mind, not the pocket. So there's no reason for me to go and fret and stress over money. I fret and stress over the simplicities of life and how I don't understand them. Right. So maybe it's that I try to convey through my art, and I'm hopefully able to speak to a few people and that they can relate to it and they can see the methods of my madness essentially.
You're still essentially painting murals without painting murals. Like, what you're doing is mural work for the most part, because there are so many layers and so many aspects to it.
Well, what I've been trying to implement as well is that there's an augmented reality section that I want to get into so that you're able to actually project my work into your digital slash real life. So, with a lot of my newest work, you're actually able to download the files if you were to purchase it, of course. You're able to download the files and utilize them in an augmented reality sense so you can see each and every layer popping out from your device or whatever you set the target image to. So if I wanted it to be set to a postcard or literally my piece of art could be on a canvas, you go and you take a video of that and it'll pop out from the actual frame. Like it's obviously you know what augmented reality is, so just picture like Pokemon Go except with art. Like that's what I really want to get into is that I want to develop a blockchain based game where you're able to collect my NFTs. Um, it's just a lot of coding that's involved. Like I think I've told you about my puzzle idea, um, where you collect puzzle
Yeah,
pieces.
not really. Yeah, you told me that you wanted to try it, but you didn't tell me what your
Exactly.
idea actually was.
So essentially, you would piece together all the different artworks, and it would make a mural to elaborate on what you said as a mural. So each of these pieces would be a small piece, which you could display in 4K on a TV, for instance, or a monitor. And I make sure that all mine are 4K right now because I know that 8K is right around the corner. And a lot of people still don't have a 4K TV or a monitor for that instance. But I try to make all of my artwork very high resolution so that it is displayable upon a 4K monitor. And if you were to piece those together, I want to make it so that it makes an entire mural. So if you were to collect all those said pieces, you could then display it as a mural through a projector or whatever it may be, right? So to elaborate on your that I still paint murals? No, I don't. I don't paint murals anymore. I'll be honest with you. I haven't had that opportunity in years. Okay, I haven't painted a mural. I haven't painted a graffiti piece, any sanctioned pieces at least, in the last half decade. You know what I mean?
Now, is that because of your
Injury.
okay, your injury, not your um legal
No,
uh trouble?
no, no, no. So, like, to elaborate on that again, I believe I told you yesterday. I don't know if we're going to use that part or not. You can cut this out because I'm talking about it. Um, Essentially, I was booked for multiple counts of mischief, and this is while I was just in adolescence. And I believe I told you the story where it was Jisk Two and I and my ex girlfriend, and we were painting a bridge, and we had been chased down by the police, and essentially what had happened is I got booked, and I figured that I'm going to outsmart the police. I'm going to outsmart the government. I'm going to contact my local skate park, and I'm going to see if I can paint a graffiti mural for them. And in order to do that, it needed to be sanctioned through the government and everything. But while doing so, I was able to get off of my graffiti charges by painting graffiti. Right. So I technically, like I said, I beat my charges. Right. Like everything was dismissed. I was on a peace bond for quite some time, multiple year peace bond, and I did keep the peace, and I have such since then. So according to the law, at least.
So it wasn't your law breaking that got you into digital art. It was your okay.
No. So basically, it was my injury. So it was after I went to that Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson concert where I basically had been ditched by my friends. I got way too inebriated and overly intoxicated while at this concert. Nearly got into a fight with a bunch of goth punks. I don't know what to call them. Guys with long dreadlock synthetic hair with shaved off eyebrows, wearing white face paint. Basically, one step away from being a juggalo. Right? All these pissed off people that Marilyn Manson didn't show up. Right? So you can only imagine, right? Like the type of, and when I say freaks, I say it lightly because I'm one of them too, right? I love hip hop and I love hardcore. I'm like right in between heavy metal and hip hop. I don't know if there's a bridge that meets in
I think the
between.
bridge is Juggalos and Insane Clown Posse is the
That's
bridge.
what I said
So
exactly. I don't know what it is, but that's exactly yeah. So either way, so I get home from that event. I don't remember how. I'm sure I paid for a taxi with an astronomical amount of cash to get home from downtown. I'm sure it must have been a couple $100 taxi I must have paid, because I live, further north than our main city. So either way, I get home and I flip over my balcony, and I end up falling onto patio furniture, lacerating my arm, basically almost ending my life. Um, I had cut through a main artery that is, located underneath your left armpit, essentially. Either armpit, I guess it would be. But if you lacerate that one, you're basically going to bleed to death. So I was airlifted out to a hospital and immediately put under. I think I said it was like fentanyl, morphine, bunch of other things, and I didn't know what was going on, right? But when I had awoken from that, I obviously had to learn how to relearn how to walk, relearn how to regain my range of motion of my left arm. I had to do hand therapy, mental therapy, a bunch of stuff, and the lack of being able to do murals. is actually what turned me to digital art, because I was bedridden, right? And like, obviously, I I live for creating, and my creation is through my visual aspect. And if I was unable to do so, it just turned me into more severe depression and anxiety, that I wasn't able to complete my you know, when you have that sense, it's a gut feeling. It's like, I'm not doing enough.
Every day. Every day I have that. Yep.
Right. I'm not living life to its fullest. And if only you had that moment that you could say, "That's it. That's life," then you'd be happy. I still hadn't fulfilled that moment yet. It it was very strange for me to turn to completely digital, but it was also very homey. I delved into computers, and I love art. So when you mix the two of them together, what do you get? Fucking NFTs, bro. That's it, right? No, it's honestly true. And I find that it's not the future, it's the now. Like, you could be selling houses on blockchain, right? Like, the provenance is there. You have the proof of ownership and who owned it at what time. Why aren't you using real estate for this? Even paying for your bus, right? You get onto the bus and you tap a card, and it pays for your shit. Or even you have your phone and now you have Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and all these things. It's all through your phone. It's all just numbers. It's a minus and a plus in an accounting, right? It's a white page with black writing, and all it is a minus and a plus going in and out. What's so different about crypto, right? We've already moved towards this digital currency. No one actually handles physical currency anymore. It's most of the physical currency that's printed doesn't get used. It's only for laundering. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we've already moved towards this digital sufficient way of living. We don't If you can pick up a phone, you don't need a secretary, right? If you can pick up a phone, you don't need to go to the office. Why do we go and waste all of our money and our energy on these high-powered machines to go and burn oil to drive you from one box to another?
Yeah, hopefully the pandemic has changed a lot of that. And I wonder if that's why we've seen the growth in cryptocurrency, is because we're all sitting around looking at our phones now and either bored or just, wandering the internet looking for new things. Like, because
No, no, I think you're right though. I think it's out of boredom that everyone got interested in crypto.
I I know that's part of the reason I got into it. And then I found NFTs and art, and I was like, okay, this is
And when was that you discovered all this?
uh, January, February, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, it was around October of 2020, and I'm not sure if I told you this. I think I did. It was MF Doom, actually, who got me interested in Ethereum specifically, blockchain, NFTs. Like, it's insane to say how much of a it's his parting gift, I believe. He had such an inspiration on me, but I knew I could never touch him lyrically, right? So
Yeah, I don't think either of us could get there. And
I don't even think Aesop could, man.
yeah.
Aesop Rock is he's up there with the most intuitive, expressive lexicon that you could possibly think of, and he's even making up his own words. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't. Uh, but I think if don't quote me on this one, but I think Doom may have more individually used words than Aesop Rock.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done any research into it. Um
All right, well,
oh,
I'm gonna go
thanks.
and command you to do so.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, if only there were, some type of website where you could type in a question and then it produced places where you could find that answer. You
You know what? I'm gonna invent one.
uh,
I'm gonna call it Google, and I think it's gonna be a big
I think it
success.
might be. I think you could make a couple $100 or so, probably.
You know what? Actually, fuck it. I'm gonna call it Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, even better.
Whatever happened to Jeeves?
uh, Dude, we might be the same age based on certain context clues that I picked up on, but I remember back in high school there were, you know 10 search engines that we had to like figure out how to learn. There was like Alta Vista, it was Yahoo, AOL. Google was like,
Oh, AOL. Do you remember going and picking up those things from the fucking store to go and put in your disk? Okay, well, Google's already fucking ahead of its time, so don't go and say anything about that. But Yahoo, they might need to go and pull their pants up a little bit and get some suspenders going. Um, but Google, they've delved into the smartphone market. They've delved into the VR market. They've, they it's underneath the company Alphabet, if I'm not mistaken. Alphabet owns Google, and Alphabet actually they're recently trying to build a smart city north of us in Toronto, Canada, and they were attempting to make a full smart city essentially, where everything was based off of like internet protocol, and everyone would be set up so that way if you wanted to access your house per se, it would just be as simple as like a thumbprint or a face recognition or whatever it may be. But like you were saying, if they move to blockchain, would that not make everything just that much more simpler? Because it's all proof of provenance. There's a proof of stake. Like everything's there. I just don't understand why a company as big as Google hasn't already moved. And if hey, you know what? It's probably behind the scenes. They probably are already doing it, but Web 3.0, as you know, is the next big thing, and we've been living on 2.0 for how long now? It's like decades, you know.
because I've read like multiple
So
articles about how blockchain, and I think one of our writers at Cryptowriter might have written one about it, but blockchain actually like solves a lot of problems with um, fake news types issues, because you can tell where the source comes from, and you can then trace it back to, oh, this came from a random web post on the internet from 8chan, 4chan, someone's random Facebook page, and it's not a direct source of information.
correct.
So
But you know what? It's kind of that's almost villainous for you to say that because TMZ, which nobody loves to trust, like we all hate TMZ for a source of information. Like it seems like fake news for the most part, right? They were the first ones to cover the Kobe Bryant death. And when they did so, everyone thought it was fake news because it's TMZ. This isn't being reported on CNN or MSNBC, right? So it can't be true. Now, that's the thing that I'm curious of is that if someone like Donald Trump were to make a tweet on Web 3.0 and they were to save it,
mhm,
exactly.
I know.
You're thinking already, you're thinking,
I
how
know.
disastrous could this be?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there must be some sort of firewall or a protocol that negates, racist thoughts or, anti-Semitic thoughts or whatever it may be. I That's the only thing is that how are you going to monitor somebody from posting something so you know, benign and so derogatory towards other people. But then again, are you gonna hold them accountable and keep it up there so that way they're forever burned for scalding that type of people, so you forever scald them? Or are you gonna go and take it down, right? That's the thing. Facebook has so much control. that they're able to go and remove whatever the fuck they want. Twitter does the same thing. They go and remove whoever the hell they want. They censor whoever the hell they want. Is blockchain really going to be the successor to all this? Is it really going to have, oh, since there's proof of provenance and this came from this site, who cares? The person is still spreading hate. There should be a protocol and like a firewall essentially. It's a proxy to stop people from spreading hate. But then what's the point of the blockchain if you're not able to go and say what you want? Yeah, where's the freedom of expression?
Well, that's the thing. You are kind of flying in the face of what a lot of crypto people are drawn to crypto for, which is that there is no filter. And I am closer to you, and I have very similar beliefs when it comes to hate speech and um, differences in culture, ethnicity, backgrounds, etc.
We're all
A-
equal.
And we should absolutely be restricting hate speech. And I've gotten into arguments in these communities with people that they are complaining about censorship and, leftist mentality and such, but all we're asking people to do is to, oh, I don't know, not spread derogatory, hateful fucking shit on this stuff. And that's not freedom of speech. That's not hate speech should not be a protected um, speech by any stretch of the imagination. It is it serves no purpose, and there is a direct line between hate speech, a platform to extend that hate speech, to genocide. There's a direct line to it. And all those people that are in these communities with you and I that are like, no, no censorship. Let the masses decide what we should protect, and none of this liberal cancel culture stuff. It's like, what are you defending? Like, what are you working towards if we're allowing that stuff? Like, we've seen what it can do when it's unfettered freedom of whatever expression you deem necessary to be said for whatever maniacal, hateful mentality that you have. Like, we've already seen it. Like, why do we need to even test the limits of that again?
So here's where I stand on that is that, okay, one, I agree with you and everything that you just said. We're all the same. All right. Now, for you to go and subject dominance over another person, human being, right? Because, like I said, I don't like using the word person a lot because that is a mask. Um, maybe that person is just displaying a mask, actually. Maybe that person is so filled with hate and disgust of themselves that all they can do is tear down one another. Look at Hitler. He was a Jew, he was an artist. And what had happened was that he was told, "You're not good enough to be in our museum, in our gallery." And he took that with so much fucking hate that he took it out on the entire world. Okay. And hey, being a Jew and my grandfather being a World War II veteran and also a knight for his duties in Normandy, I will state I relate with Hitler. Not to say that, like I said, don't get me misquoted here. I'm Jewish. I absolutely fucking hate Nazis. But I can relate to the fact of why so much hatred was spread because someone had damaged his interior, right? So on the exterior, all he wanted to do is display this hatred. Now, imagine the blockchain. So someone doesn't have to go and create genocide in order to do so, but they can spread the same hate and it can be documented and then never removed, right? We don't blast Hitler from history, right? Like it's there to warn us of what happened in the past and what could potentially happen in the future. That's why my last name was changed. because we're afraid of a second Holocaust, right? So instead of being Epstein, we changed our last name. And again, you probably don't want the last name Epstein, based on the recent allegations.
Yeah, I'd say that was a good decision by your
Yeah.
ancestors. But yeah, and I don't know where the line is. But I am not for, just letting the free market have that libertarian mentality towards things where, oh, the market decides what is necessary, what is not, and what people will tolerate. And that mentality doesn't take into effect everything that we've learned up to this point. We've obviously learned things, like you said, about Hitler, and there are enough instances of genocide throughout the years where we can trace how these things start, how they spread.
So how would you implement something?
That I
Like if
don't
you were
know.
going, that's what I'm saying. So if you and I were going to propose something to someone who's actually able to make a change, how would we propose this, right? Like you and I can't code this. You and I can't do anything. We aren't able to make this change, but we are the voice, right? We're the voice. Someone might be listening to us who's able to go and make these changes. Like what would you say to someone like that?
Dude, I don't know. But
That's what I mean, right? Like what do you say to them? Like, "Hey, dude, please save us. Make sure that we don't have hate and discrimination in the future." But that's a part of human culture. If we didn't have hate and discrimination and we didn't take over other countries, then we wouldn't be where we are today.
mhm,
If someone's not gonna implement change, who will? Right? And if you're not the one to go and strike the idea for thought, then who is? You're a voice. People are listening. If you don't go and strike the conversation, then maybe no one will listen. Then maybe no change will be made.
your concern about other cultures definitely present in my favorite piece that you did that used to be called Hands Up, which I thought was a perfect name for it. I do like the name Too Many, but now you call it Black Lives Matter and in parentheses Too Many. Um, what sparked that? And I guess, is it just that you have family members that are?
No, no. So you know what, man? I care about all human life, and this shit strikes way too hard. It hits hard at home. It hits hard to everyone, and it's a sense of disgust. Whether you're white, black, brown, yellow, fucking red, purple, I don't care. If you're purple, then maybe you should help the guy because he's probably choking. That's a Mitch Hedberg joke. I care for all human life, and you know what? When you see it in the media, it's a fucking sense of disgust, and there's not much you can do about it, okay? But if you can't control another man reaching for what he thought was a taser, or sorry, it was a woman, reaching for what she thought was a taser and instead shooting an innocent black man, it happens every fucking day. It's just every once in a while you hear it in the media. It's too many. Like I said, too many lives, too many people that are unjustified. And if you know, they can speak out as much for they want for themselves, but if us, the other majority of people who are not a part of their party, speak up for them, if no one does, who will? That's the same question I had before. If they can speak up for themselves, but it's not making a change, maybe it's time for someone else to go and step in.
I'd like to thank my guests for taking the time to speak with me. I'd also like to thank the DJ, Aiden, for allowing me to use his music. And if you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe, like, and share it. Thanks for listening.